Someone asked me to record a video about Anatta, which means no self. In my previous video, I discussed non-duality or non-dual realization. No self-realization, or realizing, fully embodying the recognition that there is no abiding separate self anywhere. Anywhere in experience, anywhere in the universe. There's nothing between thoughts and sensations and feelings and colors. There's no glue that holds everything together. There's nothing observing the colors and the forms and shapes. There's nothing feeling the sensations. There's nothing hearing the sounds. There is only sound. There is only color, form, shape, movement. There is only choice. There's no choice maker. There's only what's happening. There's no one it's happening to. So this realization is, statistically speaking, pretty rare. It's definitely possible for anyone who has the inclination to continue to wake up to the deepest truth of what they are, to the deepest truth of reality, although it's still reasonably uncommon. The reason it's uncommon is that the remnants of identity that remain, even after deep realization, even after non-dual realization, are quite subtle, slippery. They are sort of insidious ego structures that can hide very easily inside our perception and elude or evade our ability to recognize them operating. With good inquiry, it is quite possible to uproot these remaining remnants of identity. And when that occurs, it's seen with undeniable, crystal clear, moment-to-moment perception that there is no discrete, abiding, separate self anywhere. There aren't selves and there aren't others. So based on the request to make a video about no self-realization, I was making a brief outline of what to talk about in the video. And then it struck me that the inclination I have, or the urge I have, is to say the simple truth that every video I make is about Anatta. Every single video I make is about no self-realization. Once the realization of no self is clear, then everything is no self. Everything is about no self. Everything is pointing to the inevitable recognition and realization that there is no one for whom all of this is occurring. There's just occurrence. The processes aren't happening for anyone. They're just happening. Sound isn't heard by someone, and it's not heard anywhere specific. There's only sound, sounding. It's not happening someplace, and there's no place it's not happening. No self-realization is like an inferno of emptiness that burns up all traces of identity, again and again and again and again, endlessly. Now, to the intact ego, this could be really uncomfortable, and it can even be destabilizing. But when the practitioner is ready for it, when they've gone through the stages that lead up to this final shift, final for the individual, then it's a natural movement. It's a natural unfolding of a perfectly natural and simple process. So why is every video I make already about Anatta? If it's such an advanced stage of realization, if it's such a subtle recognition? Well, because with seeing through the illusion of self, it's seen not only is there no self now, there was never a self, there was never anything like a self, there aren't others, there's not separation, there's not a self apart observing anything, and there never has been. So every word, every sound, every movement, no matter how seemingly mundane, how seemingly insignificant or non-spiritual, is the realization and actualization of no self. You can't miss it. You've never missed it. I don't know anything you don't know. I haven't realized anything you haven't realized. There's nothing special about me. I can't see anything that you can't see. There's nothing in you that's going to go away called a self. It doesn't work that way. Those are thoughts. If you believe there's no self, that's a thought. And then another thought will come along and tell you how you can get rid of self, because there isn't a self, and now you believe that. But the self structure will be intact that whole time, and the self structure is an experience or a feeling. So what no self really means is that feeling or that self structure that's operating and believing the conceptual version of no self itself is not referring to anyone. It's not referring to anything. It's not referring, period. There's no referential nature of anything. There's no inherent nature of anything. Everything is self-so, and being self-so, it refers to nothing else. It has no cause and no effect. This is right in front of your face. When you walk down the street and you look down to the sidewalk, it's right there. That's the embodiment of no self. The texture, the sensation of movement, of aliveness. The complete combustion of all sense of identity in that moment into the sound sphere, into the sensation sphere, into the visual field, even into the thought space. This is all occurring spontaneously and for no one. And there's no adequate description of it. There's no way to talk about what this is, because it's not a what. It's not a paradigm. It's not a way things are. It's not a description of reality, because descriptions of reality are still held by and used by the remaining sense of self to keep itself intact, seemingly. To see that that's all happening to no one, for no one. And that it itself is a single view or a single frame of reference that collapses instantaneously into the next sound, into the next physical experience, or the next movement. That is the realization of no self. So this is practice. Practice is the recognition of no self, even as the seeming self, even as the seeming practitioner, one breath at a time, one mantra at a time, one movement of attention at a time. You've never seen anything that suggests there's a self. There are only thoughts reflecting one after the other, creating a sort of optical illusion of continuity, of progression, of solidity, of predictability. All of those are illusions. They're of the mind. They're of the thought space. And they're mirages created by the reflections of thought. But outside of that thought sphere, nothing. Only the next sound. Only the non-dual experience of aliveness, manifesting as the ground, the body, the hand movement, the sky, the smell of the food, the taste. There's nothing more. There's only this. And this is everything. And it's no specific thing, dissolving as soon as it's being experienced. It's self-experiencing, self-dissolving, self-releasing, self-propagating. There's nothing outside. There's no external world. There's no body, no internal world. Just vivid experience, residing nowhere. This is no self. It's not a stage. It's not something you can realize or know. It's a statement of what's not here. In the realization of no self, there's no inclination to point to no self, to talk about it, because the whole paradigm is dropped completely. It just drops out of existence. So then there's only this, only vivid experience, only seeming existence. Non-dual, not in a specific place or time, but undeniably intimate. Nothing pushing and pulling on it, no resistance. The inside is the outside and the outside is the inside. Existence and non-existence are interpenetrated truth, one into the other, into the other, into the other. Endlessly. And nothing is missed. Because there's nowhere to hide. There's no longer an inner world to escape to.